Making a claim for Social Security benefits is not always as easy as it sounds, especially if you get denied. Knowing about eligibility requirements, medical evidence, appeal procedures, and vocational evaluations can help. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight on Lawyers on the Line. I'm Paula Polasky, an attorney at Falsani, Balmer, Peterson, Quinn Beyer, and this evening's moderator. I'm pleased to welcome tonight's panelists. Mary A. Harris is a vocational expert as well as founder and president of Ability Advisors. Sean Quinn of Falsani, Balmer, Peterson, Quinn Beyer, and Stephanie Balmer of Falsani, Balmer, Peterson, Quinn Beyer. We're ready to take your questions. Call us locally at 218-788-2844 or call our toll-free line at 1-877-307-8762. And now let's get on with tonight's topic, Social Security. So Stephanie, maybe you can start us off here. Can you explain a little bit about the different types of Social Security benefits and when they might apply for people?
Sure. Generally, what we're talking about tonight are Social Security benefits based on someone's disabled status. You can be disabled as a child. That's one type of benefit. Adults who are disabled can qualify for either SSDI or SSI. SSDI is generally a higher amount that's based off of credits that you've paid into the system. When you get your paycheck, you can see Social Security taxes having been taken out. And so those credits go into the pot. And if you become disabled close enough in time to when you stopped working, you can qualify for this higher rate, again, based off of the money you'd paid into the system. SSI is a flat rate. It's the same amount for everybody who gets it. That's for someone who either hasn't worked enough, or hasn't worked recently enough compared to the point at which they've become disabled. Both SSI and SSDI define disability in basically the same way. So for purposes of establishing that someone's disabled from a medical standpoint, they're identical.
Okay. And Sean, we're going to get into this in a lot more detail later, but can you give a broad overview of the procedure for how somebody goes about applying for Social Security? And
Sure. The best thing to do is if you think you're disabled, you want to apply. Stephanie talked about the two different programs. For SSI, you have to do it on paper. So you get the forms either from the local office or go to the local office. For regular benefits, you can do it on paper or online. The website's www.ssa.gov, government. And you have to apply. The application asks you, simple stuff, your background information, and then what your medical problems are, who your doctors are, what medical prescriptions you take, and how your problems affect your ability to do things around the house, do your chores, things like that. So that's the process, and what I tell people is go apply. Maybe you'll get it. If you don't, then give us a call, and we'll help you with the appeal.
Okay. Now, Mary, thank you so much for being here. Can you describe what your role is in this whole process and just how you fit into everything?
Yes. Well, I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor by trade, experience and certification, and I provide evidence in the way of vocational testimony. And this helps the judge to make a decision as to whether this person is disabled or not. And many times the questions will revolve around the impact of a person's education, work experience, and the functional limitations that stem from their medical condition.
Okay. Is there a book somewhere that has all these jobs that people can do in it, or how do you go about saying, this person can build lampshades, this person can be a railroad conductor?
Yeah, there is an authoritative resource called the Dictionary of Occupational Titles through the Department of Labor. It's quite antiquated, however. Yeah. And so we also, we meaning experts, rely on job market trends. We look at job boards to see how many lampshade assemblers are there. Well, if there aren't many, we probably shouldn't testify to that. And perhaps there are many more electrical assembly positions. Okay. And it's that kind of information gathering that we use along with the Dictionary of Occupational Titles.
Okay. Now, Stephanie, you might have covered this a little bit, but I got a question. How are monthly benefits calculated for somebody?
Yep, and for SSI, it's a flat rate regardless of who you are. For SSI, I will say, I was talking earlier about the differences in the benefit programs. SSI has an asset and income set of limits where you can only bring in so much into the household and you can only have so many possessions or assets. But other than that, it's always the same. For SSDI, again, that's going to go back and reflect your earnings over the relevant time period. And the way Social Security calculates what your rate is going to be is complicated. There's a way to do it. What I like to do is there are certain documents you can get from the Social Security Administration as you're handling an appeal that will show the estimated rate depending on the point at which you're deemed disabled. And you can see a little bit of how your earnings are adding up when you get the statements in the mail. I think they stopped doing that maybe, but you can log on.
You can log on.
You can log on, and everybody should go and start their own Social Security account. Sean already gave the website, but even if you're not a recipient, you can at least start an account and you can keep tracks of those kinds of things. And it's also important to track your earnings from an accuracy perspective. I had a woman come to me once and she wasn't going to qualify for SSI because she had too many assets and income otherwise, but she was very much disabled. That wasn't the issue. And she said, you know, I really feel like this isn't right, these earnings statements. And we went back, she and her husband had kept all their records, and we went back and we produced them to Social Security, and Social Security corrected their credit calculations so that she was able to qualify for the program.
Okay. Now, Mary, you and I talked a little bit before the show started about what are some things that somebody in your position, vocational evaluator, can't consider? Can you, some people say, well, there aren't these, jobs around here, or what can't you consider in giving that sort of report or evidence?
I really can't consider factors outside of a person's disability or the functional limitations that result from it. For example, I'm oftentimes asked, I've just testified about how much pain I'm in. How can I do these jobs when I've been telling you how much pain I'm in? But what I need to do as a vocational expert is to break that down and into function, and because everyone has pain. So it's how does that impact your ability to work? Does that result in you being able not to concentrate? Do you have to lay down? Do you have to stop what you're doing for a period of time? So those are the kinds of questions that I'm better able to answer.
Okay, so there's a vocational evidence side of things. Does somebody want to talk to how a physician, how a individual's physician might play into this? And then
the most important evidence at any Social Security disability hearing is the medical evidence. Most of it is the medical records, the records of the claimant's doctors. So the job of the representative at the hearing and the Social Security Administration, even at the beginning, is to gather up all that medical evidence, get all the records from the Duluth Clinic or the St. Luke's Clinic or whatever it may be, all the hospitals. And then sometimes we get written reports from the treating doctors saying, I know this person's my patient, and this person can't lift more than this, can't stand longer than this, would have trouble doing a full-time job, things like that, and here's why. And then sometimes at a Social Security hearing, not always, but sometimes, in addition to having Mary or another vocational expert at the hearing, which is always there, there's a medical expert. And this is not a doctor who is the claimant's doctor. This doctor has never examined the person, but this doctor has read all the medical records. And that doctor will then give testimony, much like what Mary has to do, saying, Judge, I read the records and these are what the records tell me, and based upon that, I think this person could do this and can't do that, and so forth. And just like Mary, that doctor cannot say, well, I'm considering how much pain this person's talking about. They have to say this is what is basically the norm.
Okay.
And one of the things that Mary no doubt has to deal with all the time is a person saying, well, those jobs aren't in town. or something like that. The judge can't consider that because Social Security looks at theoretical. Can you work? Not will anyone hire you? Or are those jobs in Duluth or in Superior and Hibbing? Doesn't matter.
Or would you like to do the job?
Yeah, or do you like that kind of work?
Right,
That doesn't
yeah.
matter. Or or can you make a really decent living off of that? Minimum wage jobs without benefits. So it's theoretical. Could you work full time? That's the issue.
I want to add something to what Sean was describing as far as the collection of the injured or the disabled person's medical records. A lot of people come to see me after they've been denied and they say, well, I've got this note from my doctor saying I can't work. Why are we even here? And I've talked to some doctors about it, that we understand what you're saying, but the Social Security Administration, like similar entities evaluating whether someone's disabled, they say that is for us to decide. It's not a medical only issue. And while Sean's certainly right about the medical evidence being critical, it's a medical issue, it's a vocational issue, and what the judge or whoever's deciding the case is doing is they're taking in all this information and then they're deciding if someone can work or not. And so what Sean and I frequently try to do is get better evidence from doctors and similar providers, saying, well, I feel that they can't work full time because of blah, 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 or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
So.
I have a really interesting question. So, the person's receiving Social Security right now, but they it looks like they might end up receiving a personal injury type settlement. So, say somebody ran a stop sign and slammed into their car, and so now that case might resolve and they might get a settlement. How will that, if at all, affect their Social Security benefits?
Well, that goes to what Stephanie was talking about earlier. If the person is receiving disability insurance benefits, RSDI benefits, the benefits that they paid into the system for, then receiving a big lump of cash from a personal injury settlement or an inheritance or whatever, doesn't matter. Because you bought that benefit by paying your taxes, and now you've earned it by working and now becoming disabled. If you're on SSI, then it's going to probably wipe out your SSI because SSI is a welfare benefit. And if you now have too much money, no matter how you got it, then you're not going to be eligible for it no matter how disabled you are until you spend that money.
Okay.
And then get below the asset requirement. And for a single person, it's $2,000. If you're married, then it's $3,000.
Total?
Total of non-countable assets. Your house doesn't count. But if you have another house, that counts, like a cabin. Your car doesn't count, but you have another car, it counts. Your snowmobile counts. Your ATV counts. Your clothes, your furniture doesn't count. But expensive jewelry might count.
Okay.
I had a client who lost their SSI because she was the co-signer on her mother's checking account because her mother was elderly. And so they said, well, you have access to your mom's money. So we had to get her off this check signing for her mother. I mean, there's any number of things that can take you out.
So lots of things can screw things up. Now, Mary, another question for you. Person wondering if, we talked about a function and whether or not somebody can physically do a job. That goes to physical disability. But what if, can somebody be disabled and get Social Security based on emotional or psychological reasons? And what sort of things do you see there?
Sure. Function is across the board, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. And oftentimes you'll see a combination of the two. People who are having a great deal of pain or physical illness will oftentimes be depressed.
Almost always.
Yes, right. Because they're not working, there's stress, and what am I going to do? So oftentimes you will see both, and they each bring about their own functional limitations, as it's called. In other words, if someone's depressed and as a result they're crying a lot, well, it's really hard to work when you're crying on the job. So
Right.
that's a functional limitation.
Now, Stephanie, some questions coming in about taxes on Social Security benefits. Are your benefits taxed?
I am not a tax expert,
Okay.
And that is what I tell all of my clients. And then my next answer is, unfortunately, it depends. I mean, it depends on how much you're getting and what else is going on in your household. But I usually tell people, even if they've gotten a large amount of back pay, or frequently in our office, they may have a separate personal injury claim or workers' comp claim, or used to be they were getting divorced, or whatever the case may be. You should talk to someone when you get your taxes done. Even just at the outset, and get some good advice from someone who knows. It doesn't mean you have to pay a couple $100 a year every year there on out, but generally, if you only get so much a year, though, it's not considered taxable income.
Okay.
And the Social Security website is really a wonderful source. So again, ssa.gov. SSA is Social Security
We're not getting
Administration.
paid to
No,
talk
no.
about the website.
No, well,
by the
I
way.
don't think they get paid for people to use it. But there's a search bar. Type in the search bar, are my Social Security benefits taxable? And you're going to get, there's these answer pages, they'll give you that. Now, are the answers easy to understand? Do they make a lot of sense? I've read the answer to that one, the taxable one. I don't know if I follow it necessarily. So,
Okay.
so Stephanie's advice of, talk to a CPA or a tax accountant or, something like that might make a lot of sense.
Okay. Now, Mary, do you ever see people who've applied and there's hearings that people that don't have attorneys, or does everybody have to have a lawyer to apply for Social Security or go to a hearing?
No, the answer is no. You do not need an attorney. However, many people would benefit from having an attorney. Just knowing the questions that will be asked, being able to secure appropriate medical information that really does say more than can't work. Is so important, and they really only get one shot at the hearing, unless there's an appeal, and that's a little out of my realm. But that is their time to make the case, and so fortifying with the help of these fine people just makes sense from many aspects, and I really find that the judges feel a little more comfortable too when someone's represented, especially if someone comes in and is real uninformed about what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what does it cost?
Well, that's easy. Social Security attorney fees are governed by law. So the Social Security Administration not only governs the program and the benefits and everything else, they also govern the attorney fee. And so there's an exception to this, which rarely, if ever, applies. So the general rule is we get paid 25% of the person's back pay. So they have to win, and they have to win retroactively to some time in the past. 25% of that back pay is the fee. But the fee's got a cap on it, too. The cap is right now $6,000. So that means the fee can never be more than that. It could be less, but never more. So we only get paid if we win, and we get a percentage of the back pay. And it's kind of automatic, but the judge still has to approve the fee. They almost always do, but they have to approve the fee. So that also protects the individual from having to pay a fee outside of those rules. So that's a general rule. So it's rather foolish to not go forward without an attorney.
Okay. Now, people might have heard these sorts of comments a lot. Hey, I see the guy down the street getting Social Security, but I see him planting flowers, doing yard work. What's all that about? Steph, how would you answer that?
I would love
sort
to
of
answer
question?
that because, I just on the street and friends and family, and then a fair number of clients coming in saying, how could I be denied when so-and-so is on it? And my first response is always, you don't know what that person is living with. You have not seen their medical records. You're not with them 24/7. And so that's my first answer is, in spite of what you think you know about someone, you just don't. The second is, I usually say, if you think it's this hard for someone like you to get on them, why do you think it would be so easy for someone else? I mean, I don't think there's a conspiracy. And then finally, I find that some people who, as Mary was mentioning, are really struggling with life. They're in pain, they're angry. Most people don't like having to wait for 2.5 years to get a third of what they had been making per month. But throughout all of this, they start doubting themselves. And once you get on the benefit that, you've either been paying for how many years, or that society is helping you with, you can regain a little pride, a little more. You're under less stress, and your life improves at least slightly. And what's interesting is people who have stopped working and who enjoy an uptick in their symptoms or their state of mind sometimes go, oh gosh, I feel better. Yeah, that's because you're not working. And that is why you are disabled, because when you work, you're a shell of a human being, which isn't how anybody's meant to live life. So those are my answers to that question. I, of course, have more to say about that.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Now, I'll see if I can get this right. Anybody can jump in. So caller is a rep payee for SSI and SSDI. She's got a client who was appointed a guardian, and now the fees are being paid out of the SSDI benefit. Is that right?
The guardian fees, presumably, is what this person means. Yeah,
seems
and
like it.
My answer is I have no idea, and I'm not going to even try to make one up. I don't know the answer. Do you have any idea?
I know a little. I'm actually a rep payee for a couple of people.
What is that, first of all?
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's
sure.
a very good thing.
So frequently when someone applies for Social Security benefits, one of the first things that Social Security will send them for an examination. And the primary purpose of that examination is to determine whether the individual can handle their own funds. So if the claim goes through, even if you get however much per month, what are you going to do with it? So if the result of that examination or some other medical evidence, the person's doctor or another court system have already said this person cannot handle their own finances and their own benefits, then Social Security will assign a representative payee. And you can be involved in that process. You can say, well, my aunt, my daughter, my sister, my friend, but then there are also people who do it for a living. I don't think it's a very, you can't get rich at doing it, but it's frequently people who have worked in the Social Security system before or worked as a social worker, something like that. And so what they do is they handle the money coming in every month. It's usually to a checking account that says, so-and-so as rep payee for so-and-so, and they take the money in, they pay the bills out, they give whatever cash allowance the individual is meant to receive. My understanding is some rep payees, again, can take a fee for that. I don't. The people that I do it for are more friends, acquaintances, my mother, things like that. But I would say, because there are situations where a rep payee is moving money around, because they didn't know something, contact Social Security. Call up the office. They all know what they're doing down there, and they'll answer your question. So if someone has concerns about that or questions, they should contact Social Security.
And I think the rep payees, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Steph, the rep payees have to actually account for how they're spending the money of the person who's receiving the benefits. So
makes sense.
Which is obviously designed to protect the individual who's actually supposed to be receiving the money. But if somebody's disabled and they have a guardian and the guardian needs to be paid, maybe the guardian does get paid out of that check, and the rep payee has to make sure that that person gets paid. But Steph's point is a good one. Call Social Security and ask.
Okay. Well, we'll try to sneak in a couple more questions. So this person has anybody can jump in, this person has a long work history, but they're about 3 credits away from qualifying for disability benefits. If they became disabled right now, could they still get benefits? Or if you haven't worked, if you haven't paid in
If you don't have enough,
the right amount?
If you don't have enough credits, you're not going to get the regular benefits. It's a simple, it's a real hard line. It's a simple rule. Sometimes it's unfair. But the general rule, there's a different rule for people younger than 31. But once you get to 31, which means you could have had about 10 years worth of work life so far, adult work life, they look back 10 years from the date you say you became disabled. So I became disabled the end of May 2016. They're going to go back to the spring of 2006. They're going to look at those 10 years. There's 4 quarters a year, 10 years, 40 quarters. You have to have earned at least 20 quarters. If you've worked continuously, you've got 40 quarters, but you have to have at least 20. If you don't have 20 in the past 40, you don't get the benefits. Simple as that.
Okay. Mary, quick question for you. So this person says, well, how can I get to work if I don't drive and there's no public transportation where I live? Do you look at accessibility or ability to get to a certain job and looking at, or is it strictly function-based for you?
Yeah. Again, that's one of the factors that I cannot consider. It is, unless it's related to the disability, oftentimes I'll be asked whether, or asked to consider that a person cannot operate dangerous machinery. That's a car, so therefore they can't drive. But that does not mean that that's the end of the road. They would be expected to move someplace where there is public transportation or to secure
Yeah,
transportation.
it's theoretical jobs, not
Right.
jobs where you live.
Right.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have tonight, and so the 24th season of Lawyers on the Line draws to a close. I want to thank our excellent panelists this evening and for the entire season. Remember, you can watch all of our shows online at www.wdsc.org or on the Falsani, Balmer, Peterson, Quinn Beyer website. I'm Paula Polasky. Good night.